Hello, my name is Swiss Bianco. In this video we will have a look at the armorer's manual for the Sturmgewehr 1957, the Swiss assault rifle, the first assault rifle that they got back then. We have to go back in the 50s to start on this design. I was of course not there in the 50s. I was born in 1970, and in 1990 I had this rifle in the military. Before, of course, we had that rifle in the family, so I basically did grow up with that rifle, and that's why I'm gonna talk a bit about the background, how it really was, and of course we're gonna look at that manual. It's a rather thick manual, so quite likely it's going to be a multiple part of a video, but I still want to do that. So we have the full armorer's manual on video. So the manual that we have here is from 1978. We see that on the style of the manual, that yellowish style. And it's in Deutsch, in German. German is Swiss German is one of the languages that we have in Switzerland. Such manuals were also printed in Swiss French and Swiss Italian, because I did grow up in Swiss German part. Of course, I got that in Deutsch. So the Sturmgewehr 57 was basically a design from Rudolf Amsler at the SIG factory, Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft, Swiss Industry Company, basically a company in Neuhausen by the waterfall. I was 2 times there in my life, at the factory and at the waterfall. Basically industrial company. They made a lot of other things next to firearms. Also the trains, they were famous for making train wagons and things like that, but a lot of different industrial products. That was usually back then, like Remington, they did typewriters, not only firearms, and many other things, mechanical, technical things as well. So about 700,000 of those 57 were built, plus about 5,000 of the PE version, the Privat Einzelschuss, the private semi-automatic version. Those are rather rare, and of those 5,000 should be still quite many around in Switzerland. Of the 700,000, most of them quite likely are gone by now, because at a certain point a while back the Swiss government did destroy thousands of those assault rifles, unfortunately, instead of selling them. So basically the poor Swiss taxpayer had to pay for the design, for the development, for the manufacturing of that Sturmgewehr, and then pay again for this destroying. Utter disgusting, and that is how that is. And because the environmental changes in the requirements of destroying things, they could not just say the rubber parts could not just be burned to get rid of. So it was rather expensive, and of course the Swiss government did spend the Swiss taxpayer money on that. But that is a different story. Anyways, you see, it's a lot of little details, because I did grow up with that time, that rifle, that I want to incorporate in this video. So the Sturmgewehr 57 was finally adapted in 57, and step by step it did replace the Carabiner 31, the straight pull carbine that we had back then. The 31 is another gun that I did grow up with, same caliber, just of course just a repeating rifle, not semi and full automatic like the Sturmgewehr here. And it did also replace the Suomi 31, basically the Model 43-44 as it is called in Switzerland, submachine gun, rather big and heavy in 9mm, and also the LMG 25, leichtes Maschinengewehr 1925. That was basically a magazine fed, same caliber as the K31 and the stgw 57, light machine gun, a rather heavy item, and that was replaced too. And then later on, of course, they made a version of the 57 with a scope on it, just a simple, cheap, inexpensive Kern Arrow Swiss made 4x24. So you see already 4x24, it's basically no magnification that is usual as a sniper rifle. So that version did then replace the ZF Karabiner 55, rather rare, not that made in a bigger number, a rare variation of the K31, basically with a few changes and scope added. That gun is to the day, of course, only getting rarer, and it's a bit the same like with the Sturmgewehr 57 with the scope mount. Not on any rifle you could mount a scope, as we're gonna see. So some variations are relative rare and some are really common, but pretty much all are gone by now. That is how that is. There are still some semi-automatic altered 1957 Sturmgewehr in Switzerland. It's rather cheap over there, and they are mainly used for target shooting, because as a combat weapon that rifle was never good. So it did replace all those different guns, and that was basically the drawback of the whole system. The Swiss military did want to replace the submachine gun, the light machine gun, the sniper rifle, and also be able to launch rifle grenades with that new gun. And yeah, if you know a bit about firearms, such a broad, wide application never gonna work out. So you get a gun that will not perform well in pretty much all of the parameters that you would like to have to. So with this, it was exactly the same. It was basically a complete failure. By now, as I test out firearms of all kinds all my life, I can tell you that it's not only from the design points a failure, also from the technical standpoint a complete failure, and also in the practical, tactical application, absolute disgusting failure. And we can't blame SIG or Rudolf Amsler about that. They basically did design as best as they could according to what the Swiss military back then wanted, and they basically had no idea what they really should get. We have to see, it's 1950, 55, you know, as that did start, and since 1945 we had the Sturmgewehr 44, the famous German assault rifle. So anybody that had a bit of brain could have seen in which direction the modern fighting tactical firearm did go. But no, the Swiss military did go in a different direction, and in USA, here in USA, many argue about the M14. regarding the competition through the M16 and the advantages, basically the disadvantages of the M14, but I can assure you the Sturmgewehr 57 has even worse disadvantages than the M14, and basically over the field in the practical tactical application, in the technical side, and in the design, you know, I did of course study the M14 as well, and we're going to see that in that manual on the technical side mainly, what the disadvantages were and all that. So yeah, so back we go a bit forward. 1990 I did join the Swiss military. I got one of those fully automatic rifles for myself, and then I could of course test it out a bit better there in the practical application as best as we had it back then. It was unfortunately the experience, the whole experience in the Swiss military was absolutely disgusting. The equipment, the training, the whole structure of that military was in an old-fashioned way. Basically, old equipment, old-fashioned training, nothing modern or modernized at all. Many of the people were not too good there either, and that was already a selected part of the military where I did go to, and unfortunately all in all absolute negative experience, but maybe one day I make a video about that. So there I could see how the item performs also with people that are a bit less experienced with firearms like I am. So yeah, you learned quite a bit about that time there directly one-to-one in the Swiss military. Then 1990 came, the next evolution of the SIG came in the form of the SIG 550. The 1957 Sturmgewehr here was the 510. So they did the 550, the Sturmgewehr 90, and of course we did not get that. Back then that took years, many years and many changes to get that rifle actually working well. They had to replace the stock design like 3 times because the hinges did break, and the gas tube was made in a material that did not resist rust because the propellant of the ammunition of the cartridge was not good, plus the pressure too high, plus the material from the bullet was not well suited either. You see, Swiss arms design, many people say, yeah, that is pretty good and well and this and that and the other, but if you were actually there and saw that as a witness, you know, first-hand experience, you can see that is not the case, that is rather negative in most on most sides, on most events, unfortunately. So anyway, that a bit about the backstory. Now we go through that manual. We see it is just for military use. I'm gonna point that actually out with the Swiss military Swiss Army knife. This one 85, just saying. And we see here just for military use, Swiss military, then what it is, the number, what it is for, and there just for the armor. That was the main reason why I got that manual and many of its kind back then, to read and learn what the armor would do with it, so we have a bit more technical insight. So it was guilty or working from 1978. As we open it up, you see it's rather thick. As we open it up, we see basically the same again. Then we see where it all did go. Different parts of the Swiss military. Of course, not everybody got such a I would say restricted manual. You know, that was just for the armorers. There was a smaller manual just for the troops, so that they did not have to bother with all the different points. We see here just the Inhaltsverzeichnung, that you see what all gonna be shown on the different pages. So if you have to look for something specifically, you can get that rather quick. And you see, this is the most complex or most comprehensive manual that is around for the 57, and that's why we do this video, because the manual that the troops would get is not enough and doesn't go into the details that we want to look at. Here we see the typical picture of the 57. We have the bipod here on the middle position. You can put it on the front position as well. The rear side and the front side is put up. The 24 round magazine is in. So it would be standing like this, say by a shooting range, 300 meters. In Switzerland, often around like this. And there we have some more information. So it's designed for distances up to 600 meters, that you can also fire grenades, rifle grenades against tanks up to 100 meters, and with rifle grenades up to 250 meters on a flat trajectory. And then of course you can also use it with a dummy, with a rubber, for put telephone cables up and all that. That's what I did a lot over there. And then also a bit further, and then also with the bayonet on it as a weapon. There we have some technical details about the length and the weight. It was a really bulky, heavy, unwieldy gun. Basically, if you have a Thompson, the 1928 with a 100 round drum magazine, or if you have a R15A2 with a heavy magazine, with a bigger magazine, you get the idea. It is long, it's heavy, it's unwieldy. That is how that was. The sights usually were flipped down so that they would not stand in the way. So often if you use it, the flip up side needed to be flipped up, and of course, because they don't interlock, if you go through the brushes or something, the front side would flip down, and then you did not even have a sight. So yeah, here we have just the receiver, the barreled action with the charging handle. The charging handle is shaped like from the K31. For whatever reason they did not want to leave that design, but go with a similar T-shaped handle like the K31 and many straight pulled rifles in prior that design. We have here the folding rear sight, and we have the luggage handle on the gun. That is another feature, that luggage handle to carry the rifle on the handle. That was modern back then, but it was an absolute senseless feature. Here we see inside the receiver basically the chamber end with the loaded chamber indicator. To clean the gun, it was often getting relatively dirty because of its roller locking design. You had a trouble to clean this area here. First, it was rather tight in the receiver, and secondarily this is like a flat spring that goes up and down, and you had trouble cleaning the item out under that spring or next to that spring. And remember back then, yeah, in that great example of military, we did not have many Q-tips and things like that. So this is part 1 of the video.